who's I would say that if we take those two and we look at them in comparison to maybe like the career arcs that you and Milo went through in 2016, it's like they have seemed to be quite a bit more effective at pushing their ideas into the mainstream and making this a constant source of conversation, even if their overall disposition might be a little cynical.
Definitely. I mean, yeah, in the sense of Milo, Richard Spencer, flaming out or, flying too close to the sun and burning, fair criticism. I would say, though, that Matt Walsh and Rufio have a tremendously greater support system than I did in the sense that
Because they're mainstream on their ideas. They're not pushing boundaries, right? Matt Walsh and shit, right?
Right.
Because Milo and Spencer are living
kinda.
at the edges of like what is acceptable, and then oftentimes going beyond it.
Right.
But like Matt Walsh is like he's fucking employed by the fucking Daily Wire,
No
right?
doubt.
Like this is not a guy that's living on the edge of life. Like
Look,
he's
And
very
he was like
safe
a
and-
the
Daily
fact that
Wire
they were-
C-lister for a long time.
Sure,
too,
The
right?
fact that they were trying to pay Crowder like $30 million for a YouTube
Yeah.
show, I mean, that is totally nuts.
To anyone who had
That
any
demonstrates
doubts
that.
about how valuable you could be within the conservative world, that was a moment where, for me, I'm like, oh, okay, so these guys are fucking killing it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Meanwhile, they're talking about being canceled by everybody. I just think,
Right, and
Crowder
you're
shooting
you're
down
better
like
than Crowder. I mean, not that that's a high bar. I mean, it's like they.
He took a shtick. He's going to the college campuses trying to have his mind changed.
Bro, that was a good idea. I copied that shit. It was a good video.
Yeah, but so there is a massive infrastructure that is going to support them. Rufio worked with creationism and young Earth stuff before. He's now gone into this kind of race baity critical race theory. But there's a big infrastructure of conservatism behind them, and so that I mean. I can grant them something in the sense that Matt Walsh is articulate, but that's about it.
If you were in charge of the books in your child's library, what would be the ones that you'd want to remove?
The Bible.
Jesus.
Wow. Didn't see that coming.
No, I say that. That was a bit of a joke. I mean, I am very critical of Abrahamic religion,
Right.
but I do think, in a way, you need to read the Bible. I think most Christians haven't read the Bible; they know almost next to nothing about it. You need to read it and really understand it. So that was a joke. But which ones would I remove? I mean,
Yeah.
it's a kind of non-issue because it's like. Okay, I don't want I have a son and daughter. I don't want them reading some of these just kind of weird shit, that Matt Walsh is complaining about. I agree, and they're not going to. But like, what am I seriously concerned about? Being that they're kind of pushing preteen, it's watching hardcore pornography on an iPad. That's endlessly more impactful on their psyche
That is
than
a good point.
maybe you went to the library and saw a gay book where it's like cartoon characters. And so it's like, let's go after the real thing. That is a really serious issue. And again, in mid 40s, I can remember internet porn when it was first coming out. And like the page would load slowly, like it would take a few
Memories.
minutes. It was almost like a strip tease in a kind of funny way.
Half the time it just wouldn't load. You just left waiting.
Right.
Or you didn't get the right video. Your real player opens and it's
dude.
Video. What are you
fucking-
talking about?
I was on Kazaa, so we downloaded videos there, and instead of getting like this 30 fucking minute porn video of some woman sucking a dick, it ends up being like the whole album of like Limp Bizkit, and it's like the clean version, and it's like fuck me, I guess, yeah,
Right.
fuck that, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I think this kind of stuff is so much more serious than just some library book that they're probably not going to. I mean, they're reading a book that's probably like a good step forward to begin with.
I think
But
when it
they're not really willing to do that. I mean, I think there's this anxiety about culture in general, and they try to solve this problem in kind of the dumbest way possible.
it can't be solved in schools. Have you
No.
ever? I hate to be this guy, but I'll always be this guy. Have you ever watched The Wire?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm one of. Have you seen it?
I've never seen The Wire.
Amazing.
I'm one of those guys that watches The Wire and says it's the greatest show ever.
I watched
am.
it like a couple years ago, so
Oh,
it's still
sure.
sort of fresh in my
Yeah,
mind.
so you remember? I think season 4 was about the schools, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah. You by the time the kid is at school, you're not fixing his problems. Like you're
Right.
fucked at that point.
Right.
Especially, God, you've got these teachers making fucking $42,000 a year or whatever, or $38,000 a year, and they're tasked with what is arguably or almost inarguably the most important job in our country is educating our children, and they're compensated like shit. They're put in positions, they're set up to fail in a lot of the times, and they're tasked with like fixing problems and creating children who are already like fucked before they even get into the classroom because of how fucked the family life can be sometimes.
No doubt.
And the idea that like we're gonna write culture or do something from the classroom is like, bro, there's like so much other things outside of that.
Well, look,
Mhm.
the grooming issue. I mean, I perhaps we don't want to talk about this, but I mean, the grooming issue. So much of this takes place at home,
Sure.
and it takes place in really terrible ways. That it's not
Discord
about.
rooms and shit.
It's not even about homosexuality. It's something kind of sicker. But it's like that. That's a real issue. I don't even know how to solve that problem. Actually, the grooming that takes place in churches. That's a very serious
Damn, you're
issue.
very
Don't hear
anti-religion.
Chris Rufio talk about that.
Yeah.
You know, they want to put it on public school teachers or whatever. So again, it's just they're dealing with this anxiety and they're not solving the problem. I mean, I think the porn issue does have to be solved because we've never lived in a world like this where I can within 30 seconds I can have whatever fantasy or nightmare I could ever conceivably imagine just immediately accessible.
What
to
would be
me.
a reasonable approach towards, stopping the spread of porn or whatever that our society could actually take
I
part in?
think it could come in hand in hand with legalizing prostitution.
Mm.
And so whenever you hear Christians talk about porn, they get it completely wrong. They basically say things like it inspires rapists, it makes people want to go out and have extramarital affairs. It does the exact opposite. In fact, it's a sex substitute. You watch porn because you're not having sex. If anything, it's going to reduce rape or
It
extramarital
actually, studies
affairs.
show that it does reduce sexual assault. I don't know if it reduces the amount of sex, but when it comes to violent sexual crimes, sexual assault in countries that legalize things like prostitution, those numbers tend to come down.
Right. And look, what is the big problem right now? When I was growing up in the 80s and 90s, it was teenage pregnancy. They're having sex at school. Like, what are we going to do about it? What is the issue now?
Sexlessness, yeah.
Loneliness.
And those numbers
No
for teenage pregnancies and
friends
stuff
even.
have fallen
Remember
like, pretty
teen
significantly.
pregnancy?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
They
No
used to
one's
talk
Remember,
about that all the fucking time. Never hear
16
about
and
that.
pregnant?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, after school special stuff. That's not the issue now. So whether you can prove it or not, there's this major coincidence between ubiquity of porn and sexlessness. It's this grand irony that I don't think we've fully comprehended.
It's
And
like
so-
we take these problems, we fix them, and we make like the newest ones in the funniest fucking way. I think that the funniest thing now is I think we're gonna get to a point where vaping is more pervasive than fucking cigarette smoking was
Well,
for teens.
I think
I'm addicted to nicotine logic. I'll admit
Oh
it.
shit, are you a vapor then?
I'm not a vapor. No,
Okay.
I've got one in right now.
Oh,
I need that
Jesus,
little
yeah.
nicotine
Yeah.
kick. But I got addicted to an anti-smoking aid, which is kind of funny.
Yeah,
But
well,
I
but I mean,
guess-
because vaping was originally, or
Yeah.
am I inventing this?
No, that's
vaping was
true, yeah.
originally like get rid of, you can
Exactly.
wean off smoking, and now you
Yeah.
can vape
And
instead.
if you look at the graph of like teenage cigarette use, it just absolutely
Plummeted.
plummets, and then the vaping just
takes
explodes.
off, and now you've got kids vaping that would have never smoked cigarettes,
Yeah.
but now they're vaping and doing tricks
Right.
and
I
shit.
went
And that's like,
snowboarding the other day for the first time, and I'm waiting at the bottom of the hill for my girl because she fell about 18 fucking times coming down the hill,
Uh-huh.
and I see countless people who hit the bottom of the hill and immediately take off their glove, reach into the pocket, and pull out the vape and just start huffing away on that
Yeah.
shit.
that has to be some extended fucking metaphor for where we're at in the country today.
Right.
And
in
it would be
terms of, like,
impractical for them
this-
to smoke a cigarette in that moment
Exactly,
too. So
yeah.
it's way easier to sort of segment it into their day. Yeah.
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 But this